Have you ever experienced a God wink? You know, the kind of experience you know without a shadow of a doubt that God stepped in and gave you a big old wink from heaven. I'm your host, Cindy Spar, broadcasting from Office Evolution in Troy, Michigan. I am a firm believer that there is power in sharing God wink stories. Think of it as a way for people to shine their light on Jesus, one wink at a time. In Matthew 5:14, it says, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven." Welcome back, listeners, to the God Wink podcast. I'm your host, Cindy Spar, and I am sitting here at Office Evolution Troy with a new friend of mine, Christine Johnson. I've recently had been hearing great advertisements through Family Life Radio about Grace Centers of Hope in Pontiac, and my husband, he has a love for Grace Centers of Hope because you guys have great deals at your thrift stores. So I am so blessed to have you here today. Christine, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. My first time being on a podcast. So very excited to be here. Yeah.
I love it. It seems like so oftentimes people be on for the first time. It's their first podcast. Yeah. And then sometimes you find later that they end up down the road. They either do a podcast or they write a book or it's encouragement.
Yeah, so. It's exciting.
Well, we are, listeners, doing a focused series in the month of April on addictions. And what better way than to not only bring people on that have went through addiction themselves, but now are serving organizations that are resources to people going through addiction. Yeah. And so I just want to share a little bit to introduce Christine here. So she is a 38-year-old mother. I love that you just say your age. That's awesome.
That's good. I'm proud of it.
Power to you. 38-year-old mother to a beautiful 4-year-old little girl. Mm-hmm. She is married to a wonderful man for 6 years, and she is the special events coordinator at Grace Centers of Hope. She has also been in recovery thanks to Grace Centers of Hope in their 1-year life skills program for over 8 years.
Yeah.
So, you shared a little bit that your husband's now joining you.
Yes, my husband, he has a full-time job, and recently he took on a part-time role at Grace. So he's now helping the men in the aftercare program. We both just love that program so much. We both went through the program. That's where we met, actually. And he's just had a love for that place for a really long time. So the opportunity came up, and, we prayed about it, and that's just where God's moving us. So now he's helping out there, too.
I love that.
Yeah.
So I got to ask this question.
Yeah.
So are there rules about mingling with others while in the program?
100%. Oh, yes.
Like, is there like a certain time, like if you graduate from the program, then they're like, okay, you're good? Or
Yeah, right. So there's the 1-year program that we have, and then we have our subsequent 2-year aftercare program. So the 1-year program is separated by men and women. There's a women and children's building, and then there's a men's building. So you go through those programs separately. So you are... the rule is no fraternizing during the 1-year program, which means if you didn't come in with somebody, and I'm talking about married or engaged or the father of or mother of children, you don't date and you don't have any contact with the men or women during the 1-year program. Once you move into aftercare, the 2-year program, if you choose to be in the 2-year aftercare program, that's where the socialization starts.
Okay.
And that is where my husband and I met, was in aftercare.
That's cool. So it's like you get time to individually heal in that year.
Yes.
And then gives an opportunity.
Yes, that's the goal, right? And so people will come in married into the program. They will come in engaged. They will come in as fathers and mothers, maybe not married, but, with their children and things like that. And so we do offer the opportunity for them during the year to still connect, sit together in church, have dinners together and things like that. So that situation is different. But again, if you come in single, you're not finding somebody on the other side while you're there.
I would not want to be the person that's in there going, hey now.
Yeah. It's not fun. I did it for a little bit, and I'm good at it. So I'm a big rule follower, contrary to what the rest of my life has said. I'm actually a really big rule follower, and so I was the women's intake coordinator for a while, and I had to lay down the law a bit with the ladies. I never had to do it with the men, but now that's what my husband gets to do. So, yeah.
You should be like, ladies, it's worth the wait.
It is worth the wait. I do tell him that. I do. It is worth the wait, and it's you're giving yourself time, right? None of the relationships I'd ever had in my life were healthy. So what did I know? And why would I be looking for somebody who also wasn't putting in their own effort, So by the time you get to the 2-year aftercare program, you know that whoever you're meeting, if you choose, if you're like, hey, I want to go look around aftercare and see who's there and get connected there, at least they spent a year working on themselves.
Yeah.
Honestly, you can't say that in the real world. You don't know.
Right.
You don't know what these people have been doing for the last year. So
it's kind of like you get to observe for a year.
Yeah. You get to observe, and the program they went through. You know what they were doing because you were doing the same thing. So by the time I got to aftercare, he was as solid a choice as any outside. And it turned out he was the one that God wanted me to be with.
Wow.
So, yeah.
It reminds me of people that go to church and they're like, I'm going to find my girl.
Yes. That's exactly what it's like. It is a little community, and we are faith-based, so, everyone attends our church and stuff. So that's also a huge draw, right? My mom used to say, I would ask her, because I was raised Catholic, and they're Catholic, and I would say to her, do I have to marry a man who's Catholic? And she said, you don't. You do not have to marry a man who's Catholic. But I'm going to tell you something. Marriage is hard. So why would you want to make it harder on yourself by marrying a man who doesn't believe? And I was like, yeah,
Preach.
That's valid.
Yeah.
Right? And so being in the program and then meeting my husband, and I will always say this till the day we die, I will never, ever, ever, ever think that thought of, oh, maybe I married the wrong person. And through all the ups and downs, and we've had some in our 6 years, I will never think I married the wrong person, because I know that man loves God.
Yeah.
And I know that he has the heart of David, and he is pursuing the Lord. So I will never worry about having made a mistake. That's always going to be the right choice, no matter what happens.
Yeah.
And I have that.
Yeah. And it's like so many times you hear people tell you, do not be unequally yoked.
Yeah.
But it's totally different, though, when you experience the why of it. Not just like, you don't do that. It's, well,
Why?
I need to know the real underlying why. And sometimes we have to experience it of, you dated someone that wasn't easy, and now you're with someone that's a believer, and it's like you can actually have talks about the Lord. And if you don't agree on something, or you're in a fight, you'll go to the Lord versus the world wouldn't.
Yeah. Again, my mom, very wise woman, and when she said that, super rational, right? Marriage is hard, Christine. It is hard. Do not make it harder on yourself. Why would you? Right? You hear about that with people saying, right, like, you need to talk about finances and children beforehand, because those are hot topics, right? And you don't want to make it harder on yourself once you get married, going, what? I thought you wanted a ton of kids. I want kids. You don't want kids? And those are good things to talk about. But, right, as Christians, we know what's the most important thing.
Yeah.
The most important thing is your relationship with Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And if he does not have that same relationship or desire for a relationship, that is just going to make everything else just 10 times harder.
Yeah, because it's like you could be in the heat of an argument and thinking you're right, they're wrong.
Yep.
But if you'll go to the Lord, He'll soften your heart.
100%. Yeah, and we have His direction in our marriage, and I'm grateful for that, because I need it. He needs it. I need it. We all need it. My mom also used to say, she said, I do not know how people who are not believers, when they're going through a crisis, I don't know what they do. Because she had cancer when I was really young, and she survived, but it was very, very serious. And I remember years later her saying, watching people struggle or going through crises, cancer or a child dying or something, and she said, I do not know what I would do if I did not have the Lord.
Yeah.
Like what would you do in that situation? You have yourself.
Right.
You're going to rely on yourself. And I'm here to tell you,
I'm weak.
I am not a good God. I am a horrendous God.
Right.
I'm really, really bad. And so having God in your marriage, in your life to rely on is everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, tell us a little bit about where you were at when you were going through like the addiction and even like what was it like in your family as they were kind of navigating those waters with you?
Yeah, right. So I already mentioned my mom a couple times. She's just a beautiful woman. I had and have still a wonderful family. I was blessed beyond belief. My parents are still married. We still live in the same house.
Dang.
They're believing people, faith-filled people. So I had a beautiful childhood. I was the first child and granddaughter, so I got all of the love and attention in the family. And so just really a lovely, lovely childhood. But when I was 18, went away to college and just really made a series of poor choices that just led me further and further down until eventually I became addicted to heroin and meth, which was for about 13 years I was addicted. And probably the last 5 years of it is when I started trying to get help, going in and out of rehabs, went to probably like 15 different rehabs, IOPs, shelters, counseling, all of that. And none of it was sticking. None of it was working. I'd be clean for maybe like 6 months at the most, but I'd always go back. Dog going back to its vomit, right? Kept trying though.
Crazy analogy.
It is, but it is accurate. I will tell you that. It is extremely accurate because what I was doing was garbage and it was killing me. And
do you have permanent damage from it?
Oh, thank God, no.
Oh, that's good.
The Lord blessed me. I did have for a little bit, I had a disease that's common to those who use needles, IV drug users. But thankfully, the Lord has put a drug out into the world now that completely cures you from that. And I was able to get that drug and be completely cured. But I have had to deal with consequences in this past 8 years of being clean. I have had to deal with some consequences. When I was pregnant with my daughter, there were some consequences of my life that I had to deal with in that. But the Lord is good. He continued to bless me. He continued to take care of me. He continued to watch over me, but he's not going to take away those consequences, right?
Yeah.
I did those things. I spent that time in sin, and there were natural consequences to it. Not punishment. The Lord was not punishing me. They were natural consequences to sin. Of course, the ultimate consequence, right, death, we don't get. And so that's all I care about, as one day I will be reunited with the Lord. But there are real life consequences. And I know I have a lot of other friends that have suffered extremely, extremely for their addiction. I was blessed to not have to suffer as much as others. But, yeah, I've had to.
So even like they say, any addiction you have, even with like, for mine, which I'm drinking coffee right now.
Yeah, there you go.
But coffee for me is crazy. But all these different pieces or challenges I have with anger, right? These different pieces. And if I'm feeling that way, I go to certain things to make me feel better. I'm like, a coffee at Tim Hortons could really solve this right now.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's weird.
Yes.
Were there certain things where when you started using, it was like filling that hole? And did Grace Centers of Hope help you find the hole that you like? What was causing you to want to go back to it?
Yeah. I mean, I think all of us, right? Like I've heard pastors talk about it, right? There's that God-shaped hole in every single one of us, and we will fill it with something. Sometimes it's drugs, sometimes it's sex, sometimes it's caffeine, sometimes it's anger. So we'll fill it with anything if it's not already filled with the Lord. Weirdly, though, I did have a really faith-filled upbringing, so I knew God. I knew who he was. I knew that he loved me. My parents always used to tell me, you know how much we love you. God loves you even more. So I had a very real understanding of God and his love. I chose, like the prodigal son, to say, nope, I want to do what I want to do. I was very selfish. I had some things happen to me in my childhood and other things I did to myself that fueled that a little bit, right? But ultimately, what it is it was my sinful nature. I wanted to do what I wanted to do to the point of destruction and death. And when I came to grace, what I found was accountability, was structure, was a long-term program. A lot of programs or rehabs or any facility is 30 days at most if you're lucky. This was a year. And then they got another 2 years if you want to stay longer. So this was a solid year of me sitting with myself. And I wasn't alone. I had case managers, and I had other women going through the program with me, and I had people further along than me, and I had new people coming in. So it was a whole community of people. But we're rooted in the gospel of Jesus Christ.
That's awesome.
And so they'll never stop preaching it. You don't have to be a believer to be in the program, but they will always say, hey, like, we got
the invitation.
Solution. You know, the solution's right here for you.
Yeah.
And they showed me a way, not just to be clean. They were like, hey, like, this is how you live your life as a godly woman. This is how you live your life in a godly community. This is how you live your life not only without drugs, but this is what dating looks like in a godly way. This is what being a parent looks like in a godly way. So really, I know a lot of people who don't have an addiction that could use a 1-year program.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, right?
I'm serious.
I had a really a really instrumental few years there, and continue to, but those first 3 years at Grace were huge in my life.
I thought it was very interesting, too, that you said, and it kind of ties, in my opinion, to Grace being in your organization's name, is you said there were times where you didn't follow something that they're like, you have to follow this to be in our program. And most organizations are like, bye-bye.
Yeah. Well, to be clear, I used drugs in the 1-year program, and I used them when I was in the building. And that is like, hey, man, like, that's a big rule. You can't do that. So now you need to leave for 30 days, which, like you said, right, and I had mentioned a lot of the other programs I had been in, it was just kick you out with no path back, no resources. It's just like, you got to get out. Grace is like, no, man, you can come back. You need to stay out for 30 days. Again, another natural consequence, a loving consequence, right? That is important. And you can come back in 30 days, and we can try this again. And so I came back in 30 days, and then I broke another rule. I did it again because I'm a foolish, fleshly person, and I broke another rule, and they said, okay.
It's like Jesus.
Yeah.
Forgive 7 times 77.
Forgive, and they did. They absolutely did. Yeah, I actually did not believe that they were going to let me back in the last time I came back in. And I think that's probably part of the reason I stayed out the last time for as long as I did. I was like, there's no way. I have burned bridges. This is like my 3rd time. And I've given up on myself anyways. So why would they,
Man. So we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to hear those moments. I've heard of people that even going through addiction, there's a moment where God pierces through the darkness and just like shakes you to your utter core.
Yeah.
And just makes you want to turn back to him, right, and change your ways. So we're just going to take a quick break and be back with you guys in just a quick second.
Every woman deserves dignity and a chance to begin again. Before coming to Grace, I was addicted, homeless, and in a dark place. Walking in, I felt scared, worthless, and unsure. They didn't just help me survive, they showed me my worth. They gave me purpose. Now I'm becoming the woman I was meant to be. The Women Helping Women Luncheon and Fashion Show celebrates stories like my own and makes more of them possible. Join us. Be part of restoring dignity and purpose for women ready to rebuild their lives.
Welcome back, listeners, to the God Wink podcast. I'm sitting here with Christine Johnson, and we're just chatting about her history and how Grace Centers of Hope has helped her. And you've been gracious enough to share, what your addiction was. Mm-hmm. And I am just curious if you ever had a moment when, whether you were on drugs at the time, like, was there a moment where God was piercing through the darkness and it just shook you to your core enough to be like, I can't do this anymore?
Mm-hmm. Yes, there was. So it looked a bit different because I thought about this when you asked me to be on there. And I've thought about it when I've talked to other people about it too, because it looked a bit different, probably because I am who I am and the Lord knew what I needed. So I was out on the street for about 9 months, almost a year, living in abandoned houses in Detroit off of State Fair, and panhandling on street corners and doing drugs. And during that time, that was the last time I left Grace. And so I'm out in Detroit, a city I've never been in before, in a not good area, doing drugs. Haven't spoke to my family in over a year, right? Just kind of hoping that they believe that I'm dead, thinking that would be easier for them.
In Michigan winters? I'm sorry. How do you do that?
Not well. It was... not pleasant. It was dangerous is what it was. It was a bad time all the way around, but I had given up entirely. So all of the years that I'd been trying to get clean, 5-6 years, there was always, every time I'd go back out and use, I knew in the back of my head, all right, you're going to do this for a little bit and then you'll go back to rehab, or then you'll call mom and dad and tell them you need help and we'll go get help. I always had that in every relapse and in every season of using. There was that determination of I know what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm going to do, and this is the plan, and I'll get clean again. This last time, I did not have a plan, and I had absolutely given up. I was like, there is no coming back. There is no going to rehab. This is it. That's, I hope my family thinks I'm dead. I have given up on myself entirely. I was at the end of myself, and thank the Lord for that. And he did. He brought me to the end. He was just waiting for me to give up. And there was a time, being out on the street. It was cold. It was raining. And I really felt that sink in. I was like, this is going to be your life for the rest of your life, and you will die out here somewhere doing these things. But thankfully, he did not leave me there. And I met a woman. She was out with her church doing her church ministry on the street corners of Detroit. And she had actually worked at Grace Centers of Hope while I was there. She was an RA. And beautiful girl, younger than me, but just so lovely. And she recognized me, and she was like, Christine? And I was like, oh, golly, dude, I got to talk to this girl now. But I said, hey, Leah, and she's like, do you need some help? Do you want to use my phone? And I was like, yeah, I'll use your phone. And I call my mom, and of course my mom hasn't heard from me in a year. So hearing her on the other end of the line she was very scared, but she was happy to hear from me. And
how long had it been since she had even heard?
Over a year.
Dang.
She knew that I was somewhere in Detroit, and she knew I was using. So when I called, she was obviously upset, but so grateful to hear from me. And so I listened to her, right? And I'm like, okay, all right, there's one step, right? And Leah's like, listen, man, like, if you want to go back to Grace, I will get you there. We'll get you into rehab, and I'll get you there. And
was she in the program? Or?
Nope, Leah worked there.
Oh.
She worked there, and thank you. She worked there, and just outside girl, right? Had heard about Grace and started, working there as an RA. They hired her, and she was out on the corner with her church doing street ministry. So she says, all right, look, man, if you want to go back and if you want help, I will help you. And I said, all right, okay, and she said, okay, meet me here next week and I will take you to rehab. And I was like, all right. And so I spent all that week just kind of running around and going back and forth like, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to meet her. And seriously, the day of that I was supposed to meet her, I don't remember the exact details, but I was like not going to make it. And again, going back and forth. And finally, I broke out of the place that I was at, and I was like, no, dude, you need to go. You need to go and meet Leah. So I meet her, and she gets me in her car. She's like, all right, we're going. We're going to go back to Pontiac. I know the place I'm going to take you to so they can get you into rehab, and then you can get back into Grace. Because I needed a detox because I had been on heroin for a year. And it was going to be ugly.
That's no fun either.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. And I knew what was coming, and I was like, I'm not going to do that cold turkey because it is unpleasant. So she's like, I'll get you into a detox, right? And then, we'll get you back into Grace. And I was in the car with her. We were driving back from Detroit back towards Pontiac, and her and I were just talking, right? Because I knew her. I knew her from her time working at Grace and my time being there, and we're talking and talking. And I've since found out I'm an external processor, so that's, of course, why the Lord revealed himself to me in that moment. I'm talking to her, and as I'm talking, I remember it was like the scales fell from my eyes, and I was able to look back my whole life. I had always looked at my life and seen all of these moments where I felt alone, where I felt like God had abandoned me. Especially in my addiction, I would be like, Lord, why? Why have you done this to me? Why am I like this? He made a mistake when he made me, right? Something's wrong with me. So I'd always looked at my life in that light of like, God has just left me. He's left me alone, right? And in that moment, I remember it like it was like I turned around and I saw all of those moments that I had always complained about and cried about. And it was like, that poem, Your Footprints in the Sand? Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. I was able to see every single one of those moments. And I was like, oh, he was with me the whole time. He has been with me the whole time. He has never abandoned me. I'm not a mistake. He loves me. He has walked with me through all of this. And it could have been so much worse. But he's faithful, and he was right there, and he does love you, and you're not a mistake. Wow. And just sitting in that car with her, it was the most like if you were reunited with a family member, right? Mm. Or you were abandoned somewhere and like, oh God, I don't know anybody here, and you see a friend. Just that feeling times 1,000. I was like, oh my gosh.
How long was that car ride?
About 20 minutes, right, from Detroit to Pontiac.
You're like, could you keep driving? I want to be in heaven for a little longer.
It was beautiful. It was a beautiful feeling, and I was with another believer, right? So she's ministering to me, and I actually like looked at my life and looked at myself differently. So going back to Grace after that. Yeah, man. Like
it changed your perspective?
Yes. Wow. It changed my perspective. I was able to I wasn't angry. I wasn't scared. I wasn't lost. And Grace had the path, and they were going to always point me to Christ. I knew that. And that's where God wanted me, He wanted me there. So
how does it work even for people that are maybe they're not local to Pontiac, they're not local to Michigan, and they're hearing about Grace Centers of Hope. Mm-hmm. Are they able to serve people that may not currently be a resident?
Yeah, we have people come from California, Florida, Alaska. Somebody came from. You can come from wherever. You can get here. You can come. And it's no certain area.
And how do they pay to go through the program? Is it
No, it's entirely free. That entire 1-year program is completely free. I used to tell women on the phone when I was the intake coordinator, you can, I wish you wouldn't, but you could walk through those doors completely naked. And for that year, we will feed you, we will clothe you, we will get you to and from all of your appointments. We have a licensed daycare on site, so if you're able and you bring your children with you, your children are going to get totally free daycare, diapers, wipes, formula, loving, fully cared for during the day, right? Yeah. We provide everything. All you have to do is stay, which, right, sounds like very easy, but it is not. And I'm proof of that. They
make it as easy as they can because they know it's not easy.
We remove, all those barriers. We're trying to remove the barriers and give you the resources so that it's if you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. If you teach a man to fish, then he eats for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
We want to teach you to fish. We do not want you to be there for the rest of your life. And I'm proof of that, right? I spent a year in the 1-year program. I did 2 years in aftercare. My husband and I were married, and we lived in, so you can stay on in the aftercare program and be a part of what we call independent living. So you're still in the community. You still live in one of our homes, and we did that for a couple of years. And then about 3 years ago, we moved out and bought our own home. We have my daughter, right? You know, he has a great job. I have a wonderfully fulfilling job. And so I wouldn't have those skills, though, if it was not for Grace and the 3 years and 4 or 5 years that I spent there. So that's what they want. We don't.
It doesn't happen overnight. They want you to stay in community.
It doesn't happen overnight. No.
Man.
It takes some time. Mm-hmm.
Well, there are a couple God winks. I don't know if I shared this with you already, but my husband, this was a couple weeks ago, he went to pick up an item that he found on Facebook Marketplace. But kind of like you said with social media, he doesn't use his own social media.
Yeah.
He's on mine.
Yeah.
And so it really throws off the person he goes to visit because they're like, you are not Cindy Spar.
Who are you?
Yeah. Creepy. You're a man.
Yeah.
Old man. Okay. Yeah. No, you're not an old man. He's in his 40s.
Yeah.
Well, he ends up calling me on I think he was on his way back. And he was like, you won't believe what just happened. And I said, what? And he said, I go to this couple's door. It was like Bloomfield Hills or West Bloomfield, something like that. And he said, they said, oh, you're not Cindy. And he's like, I'm sorry, I'm her husband, using her account. And they're like, oh, okay. And they're like, oh, we're listeners of the Godwink podcast. And he's like, no way. And they said, he's like, do you know her? And they're like, no, we don't know her. We're listeners of her podcast. Sure. And we actually just purchased a book of someone that was a guest on our podcast. And he, out of nowhere, they were like, yeah, and we absolutely love giving to organizations. One in particular, financially, is Grace Centers of Hope.
Oh, well, golly.
And my husband's like, are you not having them on your podcast like in the coming week or two? And I said, yeah, did you mention that? He goes, no, I didn't mention that.
I didn't know.
He's like, this is crazy. And
that's
so
awesome.
The second piece where Grace came up, and that's why I knew that God had divinely put us in path, is I went to visit a business owner in Chesterfield down the street from where I live. And as I'm talking with him, a girl that I go to church with walks in. And she's like, hey, Cindy, how are you? I'm like, good. And we just start talking about different things. And we end up talking about the addiction thing. And she says, Grace Centers of Hope actually saved my marriage. And I'm like, what? And I said, what? How? And she said, they just have this program. My husband was really struggling with alcohol, and it was to the point where I was ready to file for divorce. And he went through a program where he stayed there for like a year. And he was totally changed. And now they both go to our church, and their marriage is established and good. And I'm like, dang, Grace Centers of Hope again. Like how
thank you, Lord.
Impactful it is, like to hear that you're transforming lives. But I wanted to have you share, like, out of all that you've experienced through the addiction, through Jesus, and through the organization with Grace, what is the one main key point that you want to stress to our listeners that you want them to take away with?
Golly, you got to narrow it down now.
I know.
I have a lot of points. I've got a number of them. No. The main key point, as it pertains to Grace Centers of Hope, I do want people to know that, I know myself as an addict, I was like, all right, it's another program. And there are other programs. There are. People are like, all right, it's another program, right? Maybe that worked for you, didn't work for me. But the Lord is working there. He is 100% working there. And I'm proof of that. I am living proof of that. My husband is living proof of that. Our daughter is living proof of that. And there are 100 me's. There are probably thousands of me's. We've been operating there for over 80 years in downtown Pontiac, and there's a lot of other people like me. And so there could be a lot more. And all it takes, if you're somebody who is like me and you're struggling, it only takes a mustard seed. It really does. It only takes a mustard seed. And I don't even know if I had a mustard seed when I really don't. I don't know if I had a mustard
crushed.
seed. It was crushed, and probably for the better. But it really only takes that. And I'm proof that you don't do it perfectly every time. But we're here, and we're free, and we want to help, and we have the answer, and that's the gospel of Jesus Christ. So give it an opportunity, because what could it hurt? What could it hurt? And it's not going to. I promise you it's not. But I do want people to know that. And for people who aren't struggling, but maybe have people who are struggling in their life, or maybe they don't at all, come out and see the place. Come out and meet the people. We always need volunteers.
I hear you give tours.
Yes, we give tours. We give lovely tours of the campus so that you can come and you can see what we're doing there, and you can meet some of the people in the program, and you could volunteer your time, or you could just come and walk around and take a tour. I'll give you a tour, and there's lots of other people there that would love to give you a tour. But we exist to help. And it does not matter who you are, and it doesn't matter where you are, and it doesn't matter what you're struggling with. We exist to help people. And the Lord has blessed that effort, and I'm proof of that blessing, and he continues to bless me. But Pastor Darren said, a few weeks ago in one of his sermons, when you are blessed by the Lord, it is usually not just for you. It is for others as well. And so one of my favorite verses in the Bible, actually, Genesis 50:20, you intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to do what is now being done, the saving of many lives, has always rung extremely loud in my head, that the Lord saved me, but he did not just save me for
There's
me.
more to come, yeah.
He wants to save a lot of others as well. And maybe some of that's through me. And I know that it's through grace. So I've been blessed. And so I would like to continue that for other people as well.
Paying it forward.
Mm-hmm. I remember it was a few years ago. I was in a Bible study, I think, with someone, and we were reading the story of Joseph and his brothers, and they betray him, and then he goes to Egypt, and then his brothers come back, and they don't recognize him, and then he's like, hey, do you recognize me now? And they're like, oh my gosh, and he says, it's okay. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to do what is now being done, which is the saving of many lives. So he was saving lives in Egypt, right? And he was saving his brothers' lives as well. And so I've always looked at that now as like, the devil did intend me death in that addiction, 100%. And I was on board for that train ride. But God did not. God intended it for good. And so he's doing now a good work through me. I get to speak to other people like me. He's doing a good work through my husband, who also gets to speak to other men just like him.
It's like a redemption story right there.
Yeah, it's full circle. And it's not just for us. Yes, I get to live. Yes, I get my family. Yes, I'm totally clean and I don't need to use drugs anymore. But there are other people that he has intentions of saving and through myself and through Grace Centers of Hope. So
it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I can't believe how quickly our time has went.
I know.
I would love for you to share with our listeners how they can get connected.
Yes. Yeah. So, of course, right, we would love to give you a tour, come out to campus and show you around. and you can meet more people just like me. I am the special events coordinator, so of course I'm going to plug our special events. We have one that's coming up, our fashion show, Women Helping Women fashion show at the Royal Park on Saturday, May 9th. So that benefits the women's programs. Really lovely event. We pick 6 women from the program. We have a salon that completely does their whole hair and makeup. They wear clothes from Somerset, and they walk down the runway with their children.
Wow.
The kids get dressed up. They walk down the runway. So really lovely afternoon, and just would love to have as many people in that room as possible. To show those women some love and support, right?
Yeah.
And we've got a great silent auction and raffles there too, so it's fun. It's a fun afternoon.
It's like your big fundraiser, right?
That's one of the biggest ones. Yeah, it's the longest running one. It's in its 28th year.
Wow.
So we've been doing that one for 28 years. So very big production involving the women and the kids and just the whole fashion show aspect of it. And then we have 2 others. We have a Pave the Way Run, 5K, 10K half marathon in September at Stony Creek Metro Park, September 26th. And then we have our final event of the year, the Night of Hope Gala. So that's for the children's program. And that's an evening out, usually, as a date night, husband and wife. But that's at the Royal Park as well. And that usually involves a little bit of singing with the kids. They get out there and they sing a really cute little song, This Little Light of Mine or something. But there's drinks and good food and beautiful silent auction for that event too. But
do you get a lot of kids coming in?
Yes, and we actually need more room because that's out of all of the programs, so men, women, and children, there's not a wait list. Except for if you're coming with children. Because of the daycare, right? There's ratios. It's fully licensed, so we can only have so many kids in a room with each teacher and things like that. So we actually need more room. So be in prayer for us about that. We're hoping to expand on that in the very near future to bring more women and more kids in, but that requires more space.
Yeah.
More space. Yeah.
And is it particularly they're looking for the Pontiac area for more space?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So I think the idea is we're expanding what we already have. We have a women's center, women and children's center, and a daycare. And those are both on the corner of Perry and Woodward. And so we'd like to add on to those and expand. But that's a huge project. But the need is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Christine, for taking some time with me today. It's been such a pleasure. And, as we prayed, listeners, before today's podcast and invited the Holy Spirit in, and we really want those that are listening, or if you're listening and you know somebody who needs today's message, to feel encouraged that they're not alone. They're not isolated. There are programs that want to work with them, that do want to give them grace as well. Like the Lord gives us grace, and we know it's not always an easy road, especially. But we have people there to help you. And so please share today's podcast with anyone you know that can use it. And I am sure they have such a great, large team at Grace Centers of Hope. Your team is enormous.
Yeah.
I've seen them at some networking events, and I'm like, I think they just took up 2 tables.
We bring everybody out with us.
It's a great community. Yeah. So, listeners, we would love to have you continue listening on this series. And if you know of someone that has an addiction and has a story, has a testimony to share with the world, we want to hear it. So in the podcast notes, you will notice a link where you can submit a God Wink story. We just want to keep this going. I told the Lord, I said, well, Lord, is it going to be the month of April, or like how long is it going to be? And I just am so humble. I'm like, I will just stay quiet and keep going until you tell me to stop. Because I think that there is such a need to be more vocal about our challenges and how do we recover from them.
Amen.
So, all right. Well, it was a pleasure having you guys listen in today on today's episode. And we look forward to having you listen in on the next God Wink. Be blessed. I want to give a big thank you to Office Evolution Troy for providing their podcast studio for us this afternoon to record. If you have any questions or you would like to book your own time in their podcast studio, give them a call at 586-788-9966. If today's God Wink story really hit home with you, we would love to hear about it through the God Wink community on Facebook. If you know of someone that needs to hear today's God Wink story, show them some love and tag them on the God Wink podcast. You never know how a God Wink story might change their day around for the better. If you or someone you know has a God Wink story that the world needs to hear, we want to hear it. Simply click the link within the podcast notes to send in your God Wink story. Until next time, remember, God's got you. Wink, wink.